Thomas and Friends, a British television series about anthropomorphic train engines' adventures on the island of Sodor. As a kid, this was a favorite series of mine, and still is. I mean, talking trains, what's not to love? Except all engines go. That is complete crap. Not real Thomas in my opinion, it just sucks. Okay, sorry, I'm done. But with all great TV series, there's bound to be copycats. My case in point, Chuggington, another British television series about talking trains. In my opinion, Chuggington is a decent series, but I still prefer Thomas. But one thing that always got me is that how the engines in Thomas outdo the engines in Chuggington. Doesn't make sense, because Thomas takes place in the 1940s to 1950s, and Chuggington takes place in the modern day. And that's why I'm here today, folks. I'm here to convince you, the audience, that the old school engines of Thomas and Friends are superior to the modern day engines of Chuggington. Why? Because I thought it would be an interesting topic. Okay, public transportation. In Thomas and Friends, passenger trains are abundant. In every episode, you see someone carrying passengers to different parts of the island of Sodor. Such examples are Gordon's Express, Thomas's branch line, and even background engines are shown with passenger coaches in tow. However, in Chuggington, the background engines are mainly hauling freight cars. And there's one episode where the trainees Wilson, Brewster, and Coco are learning how to pull passenger coaches properly. But outside that episode, they rarely pull coaches. Only times they do is when someone's giving a tour or when someone's been chosen to carry a VIP. The only exception is Coco and the Speed Fleet. Yes, they're very fast, but they pull 1 to 3 passenger coaches, compared to Gordon, who pulls 5 passenger coaches for the express line and can do it all day long. Granted, Gordon's top speed is 100 miles per hour, or 160 kilometers per hour, but a steam engine that can run at highway speeds and can hold a higher number of passengers versus a bullet train that holds a lower number of passengers just makes better sense in my opinion. But in Chuggington, there's an electric engine that was built to carry passengers. It's this guy. His name is Emery. That's all he can do. He's not fast, he's not strong, that's it. As compared to Thomas. Yes, he's a tank engine and he needs the aid of his coaches, Annie and Claire, built to carry passengers, but he has a top speed of 70 miles per hour or 112 kilometers per hour. But he's an all-rounder. You want Thomas to carry passengers? You got it. You need him to go to the Blue Mountain Quarry to pick up some rocks? No problem. You need him to shunt cars at Tidmouth Shed? Faux shizzle. Do you need Thomas to go to Brendam Docks and pick up the latest shipment of My Hero Academia mangas? He got your back, fam. Then there's the overall strength of the engines. In Chuggington, the max rail cars seen being pulled by 2 diesel engines are 5 each. And in one episode, this guy named Chatsworth is hauling 4 cars of rocks. Compared to Thomas and Friends, Gordon again with his 5 passenger coaches, Henry, who pulled the Flying Kipper that consists of 7 train cars. Now it's time to get technical. In one episode of Chuggington, Wilson is tasked with taking ice cream to a farm. Wilson is based on the EMDF unit locomotive built by General Motors between 1939 and 1960. It's funny that Chevrolet used to build trains. And in an episode of Thomas and Friends, Thomas is asked to fill in for Gordon to run the express line. But instead of taking his coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, he takes Gordon's coaches instead. Thomas is based on the LBSCRE2 class tank engines built by Brighton Works between 1913 and 1916. The EMDF unit locomotive has 1,400 horsepower and a max tractive effort of 56,500 pounds. What is tractive effort, you may ask? Well, tractive effort is to describe the pulling or pushing capacity of a locomotive. But getting back on track, the LBSCRE2 class has a max tractive effort of 21,307 pounds. So Wilson has the upper hand, right? Well, when you compare the two loads, it's quite interesting. Wilson is hauling 3 refrigerated train cars full of ice cream, and he struggled hard. According to the research I did, each car weighs roughly 286,000 pounds fully loaded. So, 286,000 times 3 equals 858,000 pounds. Okay, what about Thomas? He's pulling 5 passenger coaches, but he also struggles and he has to stop a few times to let off passengers to lighten the load. But he pulls his load better than Wilson. But after a buttload of research and getting nowhere, I finally settled on a close figure of 39 tons. So 39 tons times 5 coaches equals 195 tons. That's 390,000 pounds. That's a 468 pound difference. Yes, Wilson has a bigger load than Thomas, but Thomas can manage his load better even though he's a smaller engine. And let's not forget the race between Thomas and Spencer in Hero of the Rails. Both engines are hooked up to 7 fully loaded flatbed cars. Yes, the strain on Thomas causes his brakes to go out, but he still manages it better than Wilson. Considering that the EMDF unit could pull 6 to 7 rail cars and Wilson struggles with 3, really puts things in perspective. Last point, overall all-rounders. The sodor engines are well more rounded than the Chuggington engines because they are able to do more tasks with less restrictions due to size and build. I mean, the narrow gauge engines of sodor do more work than the smallest regular gauge engines of Chuggington. In my opinion, Thomas is better than Chuggington, not just as a TV show, but at being really useful engines.
He was #1!
But please, take this information with a grain of salt. And if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss, drop a comment. But with that, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.